Part of the downside of rising in the polls is that you come under a harsher spotlight. And there's been a lot of talk this week about ethical issues involving you back when you were governor of Arkansas. Why did the State Ethics Commission investigate you in 14 different cases and, in fact, reprimand you in 5 of those instances?
Well, the only time they ever tried to find me was overturned by a court. Understand the nature of Arkansas politics. It is not beanbag. This is serious business down here, and when you're a Republican in a very Democrat state, you got to look at where those complaints came from. Most of them were filed by members of the Democrat Party or the party itself. Some of them were filed by an editor of a local tabloid down here who filed a bunch of them. And many of them were thrown out. I was sued repeatedly. It's part of the process. You know, the one thing that proves I'm prepared for the rigors of a presidential campaign in that I've been through this stuff. I don't have a glass jaw. It's rough and tumble stuff down here. But if you take a look at all the accusations, all of them turned out to be pure nonsense. And that's why I'm still here. If I'd done half the stuff that these guys have thrown at me through the years, my goodness, I'd be in more trouble than running for president.
Well, let's talk about at least a couple of the instances. In 2006, as you were preparing to leave the governor's mansion, you and your wife of more than 30 years set up a wedding registry, a wedding gift registry at local department stores so people could help furnish your new home.
No, that's not at all what happened,
Governor,
Chris.
let me just ask.
Okay, all right.
You don't see anything wrong with that?
No, let me tell you what happened. Some of my wife's friends, some from church, some from high school, wanted to do a housewarming party for her. I had nothing to do with it. And when the reporters asked me, I said, look, in my state, if a guy knows anything about his wife's friends giving a housewarming party, he's going to get laughed out of town. It was some of my wife's friends from church and high school. They did a housewarming party. It was not a public event. It was a private event by invitation only, sent invitations to about 30 people with her friends. The newspaper got wind of it, made a big deal of it, and tried to act like there was something sinister about people giving my wife a housewarming party. Now, in the South, and I have a feeling in most parts of the country, that's something friends do for friends, and it had nothing to do with the public until the newspaper made something out of it.
Governor, is it just a coincidence that wedding presents were one of the specific items that fall outside the $100 gift ban?
No, it had nothing. It had to do with the fact that one of the stores, by the way, the kind of big exclusive stores were Target. That's the kind of high-dollar stuff we were dealing with her friends.
And Dillard's.
It happened, well, in Dillard's. It happened to be that they didn't have a category at that time for housewarming. You only had weddings and you had baby showers. At our age, we darn sure couldn't get on record as being preparing for a baby shower.
Well, don't sell yourself short. You lost 100 pounds, Governor. but let me,
about 100 years, though.
But there are, to be fair, a number of these incidents over the years. Let's just list them.
Okay.
You tried to claim $70,000 of furniture donated to the governor's mansion as your own.
No, hold on.
Let me just list them, and I'll give you a chance to answer, sir. You repeatedly accepted gifts in excess of $100. In 2002, you actually sued the State Ethics Commission to hold an investigation of allegedly illegal gifts. Governor, isn't there something, and this is a dirty word, isn't there something Clintonesque about all this?
No, there's not. There's something Arkansas-esque about it, and that is that, if you look at the politics of the state, the people who were not happy that I was governor, remember, I was only the 4th Republican elected in 150 years. I was sort of a lone wolf out here. They couldn't attack the fact that I was getting things done like building roads and reforming health care and education. So it got to be the politics of personal destruction. The attacks were relentless. As I told you before, Chris, I got sued regularly. I got these ethics charges filed against me, and we had to fight them. And so we fought them in court. We fought them with the Ethics Commission. And at the end of my term, I still have my critics, and I always will, but I can put my head on the pillow at night. This stuff about, like, taking all these gifts, for example, I personally reported stuff that was given to my staff because I wanted to be fully in disclosure. My biggest mistake was I disclosed too much, and when people gave things like flowers to the office or pastries on Monday morning, I put that down on my personal form because we didn't have any other way to report it. And even though it may look like I ate all those pastries in the early days of my governorship, I assure you that I most certainly did not.
You know, the basic point that I think is being raised here, and you could say it's some old enemies in Arkansas trying to get back at you, is the issue as to whether there's another Mike Huckabee other than the nice, affable guy that we're seeing on the campaign trail, that there's another Mike Huckabee from back in Arkansas. I just want to close this part of the interview out. Quinn Hillier, and he's not the guy you were talking about who had a vendetta against you. He used to be an editorial writer for the pro-Republican Arkansas Democrat Gazette. He wrote about you in the American Spectator, which is certainly not a liberal journal, and he said that the national media doesn't know the real Mike Huckabee. He wrote, if they only did a little homework, they would discover a guy with a thin skin, a nasty vindictive streak, and a long history of imbroglios about questionable ethics. Governor, how do you plead?
Well, you know, it'd been nice if Mr. Hillier in the American Spectator had done what fundamentally is a journalistic 101, and that's called us and asked us for a response. And when he was asked why he didn't, which is always fundamental, if you attack somebody, you give them a chance to respond, as you graciously have, he said, oh, I didn't need to call him. I already knew all there was to know about it. Interestingly, that his colleagues at the Democrat Gazette, who write the editorials, just this very day, look online, wrote a glowing editorial about my character. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's in the eye of the beholder. Do I have a mean streak? Do I occasionally get upset? Of course I do. I'm far from perfect, and you're going to find some moments where I either lost my temper or I said something that probably I regret. But am I some evil human being that have horns coming out of the back of my head? I wouldn't have survived this long in this business, and certainly not in this state, had that been the case. So, you know, I'm going to let people take a look at the record. My heavens. We've had another governor from Arkansas who had a lot of things that were investigated from head to toe. I'm more than willing, if people want to take a look at all these charges and accusations, if they want to dig through them, there's lots to dig through and lots of explanations and answers, and I'm going to be comfortable that at the end, people will say, you know, this guy's a survivor, and he's tough enough to take it. He's tough enough to be president.